Hello and welcome to the Daily News. I am Arthur Anymore Donuts, and today we'll be discussing the topic of arthropods. We have guests today that are experts in arthropods. One will talk about the habitat that they live in. The next guest will talk about the four subgroups and the characteristics. Then we'll have a professor to talk about the evolution of arthropods. The next guest will inform you about the behavior of the arthropods. And finally, someone will talk to you about which organisms will exist within the arthropod phylum. But before we get to those, let me tell you about some facts about the arthropod phylum. Arthropods are a phylum that make up 80% of the world. They are diverse, containing many different species. Right now, we have our man in the field, Steve, who is directly in a common habitat of arthropods.
Hey Arthur, and welcome to sunny South Bay, Florida. Today we're going to be talking about arthropods. See, these creatures, they can be found all over the world. Florida just happens to be a great place to find some. Of course, you know arachnids. You can find those in every household, in the wild, anywhere you need to. But there are so many more different types. So, one thing I'd say is common among the arthropods is that they usually have wings for either flying or gliding, and they usually have at least 6 legs. This allows them to stay very mobile, and allows them to get to their food and their nutrients with ease and efficiency. So, these creatures have normally 2 diets, of either feeding on other arthropods or insects, feeding on fallen fruit, dead leaves, living leaves, fungus, and even sometimes the dung of other animals. So these creatures, again, usually have segmented bodies of the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. They also have jointed legs, such as we would be able to bend our knees, at least 6 of them. Some might have more, such as the house centipede. And in order to rest, they usually don't sleep like we do. They have an active rest, which is either the day or the night, depending on the creature. Which this rest is what we call torpor. Not much is known about it, but it's very much similar to human rest, in which they don't respond to much stimuli. So normally, these creatures have either claws, mandibles, horns to defend themselves when the time arises. One interesting case is the pistol shrimp, who has one large claw. This claw allows it to shoot bubbles out, which can either stun or might even kill their prey underwater. So these arthropods, they can't really eat like we do. In order to digest, they eat their food whole fish, then they let the actual grinding, such as we would do with our teeth, to their stomach, such as lobsters who have teeth in their stomach. So because of this, of course, they need to poop, and they rarely let their waste go to waste. So that's all I have to say about these creatures. Hopefully it was as informative to me as it was to you. Back to you, Arthur.
Thank you for that well-informed report, Steve. I didn't know that. Now we're going to cut to Dr. Jacob Baca in the studio, who is an expert in arthropods and will explain the subgroups of the arthropods.
Hi there, Arthur. Thanks for having me on the show today. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about the 4 different subgroups of arthropods. They are Celastracea, Crustacea, Hexapods, and Myriapods. Examples of Celastracea are horseshoes, spiders, scorpions, and even sea spiders. Examples of myriapods are centipedes and millipedes. Examples of Crustacea are lobsters, shrimps, crabs. Finally, examples of hexapods are all insects. Even though there are 4 different subgroups of arthropods, they all have the same characteristics in invertebrates, segmented bodies, all having 6 legs or more that are jointed together in a hard exoskeleton. Since arthropods are invertebrates, they do not have bones to support their body. To compensate for being invertebrates, they all have a hard exoskeleton, which will act as a suit of armor. This exoskeleton is made out of lipids, carbohydrates, and protein. When they are growing, they shed off the old exoskeleton and form a new one, so that the exoskeleton fits their body and they are fully protected. In arthropods, the number of segments varies depending on the species. For example, spiders have 2 segments and flies have 3 segments. A fun fact about arthropods is that the name arthropod comes from the Greek word arthro, meaning joint, and the Greek word pod, meaning foot. This allows arthropods to be flexible and move freely. An arthropod's body can be divided vertically into 2 mirror images. Thanks for having me on the show today, Arthur. Now back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Baca, for the interesting information on the topic of subgroups of arthropods. I would have to say my favorite group is a crustacean because I enjoy sea animals. I never knew that the word arthropods is Greek and means jointed foot. We are now going to cut to our head professor from the University of Florida, Liam McGuire, who is going to break down the evolutionary patterns. Thank you for having me here. I'm going to teach you the close traits and characteristics of those who may be related to the arthropods. Now, species that may be related to the arthropods are Onychodra and Tardigrada. Characteristics that you'll find in a phylum that is similar to the arthropods is that they'll have many jointed legs, an exoskeleton, segmented body, and cold blood. Having many legs or limbs is a close trait to the arthropods. An exoskeleton acts like the armor and protects the body. A segmented body means that they'll have a body made up of more than one part. Spiders have two segments, and flies have 3 segments. They will also be cold-blooded, which means their body temperature depends on the current temperature. Thank you for that wonderful report on the evolutionary patterns of arthropods, Liam. Now we're going to cut to Nate Fall to talk to you about the behavior of arthropods.
Thank you for having me here today, Arthur. Arthropods are very interesting when it comes to the behavior of sexual reproduction. Arthropods transfer their sperm within sealed packets called spermatophore. Either the female will be attracted to the spermatophore chemically, or the male will perform a dance and the female will become attracted to it. After the male performs the dance, he will maneuver the female into position to receive the spermatophore. Some arthropods fertilize their eggs externally. In the subgroup Crustacea, when the eggs are hatched, the babies will not have as many segments as the adults do. In the subgroup Celastracea and hexapods, they will have as many segments as the adults. But in the subgroup Myriapods, they will have the general body form, but not as many segments as the adults do. Most arthropods will travel in groups because they play a vital role in the decomposition of dead organic matter. Now back to you, Arthur. Thanks for having me on the show today.
What a wonderful piece that was just presented to us by Nate Fall. That was just spectacular. I never knew that arthropods have different ways of sexually reproducing and that some newborns have fewer segments than adults. We are now going to see just exactly what organisms exist within the arthropod phylum, which Cliff Malone is going to tell us about right now. Wow, this is just awesome to be on the show right now. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you just how diverse this phylum is and what organisms live within the arthropod phylum. I will begin naming a majority of the organisms such as insect, spiders, arachnids, lepidoptera, butterfly, crabs, scorpions, acari, centipede, tick, millipede, trilobite, flea, a termite, a springtail, sun spiders, sea spiders. When it comes to diversity, 80% of all the animals in the world are arthropods. Thank you for the report, Cliff Malone, and to all other reporters out there. And we'd always like you to remember, stay cool.